Hello, my dear viewers. Hello, young chap. And welcome to Grundkurs English. A cup of tea? Okay. I must admit, in many Americans, there is a little piece of Great Britain inside them. We used to be British, if you didn't know that. It was a British colony until 1775, when the Revolutionary War of Independence broke out. This was an extremely short version of American history, and you will hear more about it throughout this episode. For example, my visit in Boston. I will go on the so-called Freedom Trail tour. The tour shows important sites before, during, and after the Revolution. And today's literature is from Gwyn Bristow's book, Deep Summer. It will lead us into the American Revolution too. And our lovely Carolyn will make us wiser by talking about the passive and relative clauses. Samuel Adams and Thomas Jefferson were of great influence in the Declaration of Independence, and Boston was where it all began. Bostonian Paul Revere became a hero of the Revolution, but my tour guide Josh, an expert on Boston history, will tell you everything you need to know. Und halten Sie noch Passivformen Ausschau. Sie finden bestimmt welche. Are you Josh?
Ah, yes I am. How do you do?
I'm pretty good, thanks.
I'm your tour guide, and that's why I'm dressed this way.
Well, I'm really excited about this Boston tour.
So am I. What brings you to Boston?
Well, my Uncle Mike lives here, and I figured I'd come and visit him.
Excellent. Well, shall we take a walk?
Sure.
Well, off we go. This is Boston Common. It was once used as a cemetery, and now it is a public park, which is, in fact, the oldest public park in America.
Wow. Man, Boston is a city that is very old.
Indeed. Samuel Adams, who was a patriot in the American Revolution, was buried here.
What's the name of the cemetery?
The Granary Burial Ground.
Okay. And what's up with these bells?
Oh, well, the church bells. In the 18th century, it meant fire, so everybody would come out to fight the fire.
Okay.
Now, of course, it just marks time. But as I like to say, the bell tolls for the British in Boston. This is where the Boston Tea Party started. Many of our famous patriots met here at the Old South Meeting House to dump the tea into Boston Harbor. So, the king says that the colonies ought to pay for the cost of the French and Indian War, because he feels that the British Army is here in America to defend America against the Indians. Whereas Americans feel that's not really fair. We took up arms voluntarily to protect ourselves, our interests, and therefore maybe we could share it. So we come to our last stop, the Paul Revere House. This was built in the 1680s, which makes it one of the oldest standing buildings on the eastern seaboard.
Wow. The house he lived in was very big.
It was actually bigger than this. There used to be a third floor up on top, and somehow between then and now, this building was a bank and a tenement, hotel, a cigar factory, and yet here it is.
You know, the book that I'm reading at the moment is very interesting. It says that Paul Revere, he never said the English are coming.
That's true. He said the regulars are coming out.
Hey, I tell you what, I really enjoyed the tour. I loved every bit of it. Thank you. How about if we go get a cold one?
A Sam Adams?
Why not?
You buying?
Let's go. A cold one. That sounds like a good idea. That's why I will be very passive and let my grammar patriot, Carolyn, take the active part. Charge!
Danke, Eric. Ja, wir sollten gleich loslegen, denn ganz einfach ist das Passiv im Englischen, wie auch im Deutschen, leider nicht. Aber das schaffen wir schon. Wie bilden wir im Englischen das Passiv? Mit der richtigen Form von to be und dem Past Participle. Ein Beispiel haben wir hier für Sie. Was, Vergangenheitsform von to be, und build, Past Participle. Macht zusammen was built. Wurde gebaut, also passiv.
The house was built in the 1680s.
The house was built in the 1680s. The hier übrigens, weil Josh über dieses eine ganz bestimmte, nämlich das Paul Revere Haus spricht. Sie erinnern sich bestimmt, mit the kann man auch hervorheben. Ich möchte Ihnen einen Satz zeigen, um die Funktionsweise des Passivs noch etwas klarer zu machen. Früher haben mal Kühe drauf geweidet, heute wird der Boston Common als öffentlicher Park benutzt. Das ist ein Passivsatz. Diesen Satz könnte man auch anders, nämlich aktiv formulieren. The public uses the Boston Common as a park. Hier stehen Aktiv- und Passivsatz untereinander. Sie merken schon, da wurde umgestellt. Das Subjekt the public, die Öffentlichkeit, wird zum Objekt. Und dann mache ich hier auch noch mal ein zweites Strichlein. Das Prädikat bleibt, verändert sich aber eben von aktiv uses zu passiv is used. Und das Objekt the Boston Common wird zum Subjekt. Sie haben jetzt etwas Zeit zum Verdauen und wir sehen uns später wieder, wenn es heißt Relativsätze.
Alles is relative, Carolyn. After our little grammar excursion, we'll get back to the main topic of the episode, sightseeing, and of course, a bit of American history. In Boston, Massachusetts, you'll find the oldest commissioned ship of the U.S. Navy, the USS Constitution. It was built at the end of the 17th century. Today, it is a museum and a tourist attraction in Boston. The cowboy rescues a tourist's souvenir.
And so, the United States ship Constitution.
Wow. Can you please take a picture of me in front of this outstanding ship?
Sure. Which button?
This one.
All right. There we go. And got it. How's
Thank
that?
you. Oh, excuse me, but this picture is not sharp. Can you please take another one?
How can a picture be sharp?
I think it is time to call a cowboy. Hello, cowboy. I have a problem communicating. Can you please come to the rescue?
Okay, I'm coming to the rescue. Seems to be the problem, ma'am.
Nice hat, cowboy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ich hätte gerne, dass der Tourguide noch ein Bild von mir macht, weil dieses hier unscharf ist. Aber leider weiß er nicht, wovon ich rede.
Kein Problem. Das deutsche Wort scharf hat viele Bedeutungen, aber das auf Englisch hat nur eine. Erstens, scharf, wie scharfes Messer, ist gleich sharp. Beispiel. Das Messer ist nicht scharf genug. The knife is not sharp enough. Zweitens, scharf wie scharfes Essen ist gleich spicy. Das Essen war zu scharf. The food was too spicy. Und drittens, Scharf, wie unscharfes Foto, ist gleich out of focus. Beispiel. Das Foto ist unscharf. The picture is out of focus.
Thank you, cowboy. Now I know the difference between scharf and sharp.
You're welcome, ma'am. Remember one thing. If you find yourself in a hole, the first thing you do is stop digging. The second thing you do is call a cowboy.
If you visit Boston, Klaus, I'm out of focus. Come on. Right there, mate. Perfect. So, here we go again. If you visit Boston, don't miss the trip to the former Navy Yard where you'll find the USS Constitution. Our Bostonian bar crew has a naval topic today, too. Of course, with another misunderstanding.
Thank you, man.
The docks in the harbor are full today. There's simply no space left.
So why is your dog Harper running around?
No. Docks in the harbor? Not Harper, her dog.
Dog heißt Hund. G. Dog. Dock heißt Hafenanlage. K. Dock. As you already know from Say It Again, Sam, British and Americans often use different words for the same things. And the language also varies in its spelling. From our last film, we have a good example. The word harbor. Here, it is spelled with OU. In America, you would find it spelled without U. Americans like to shorten and simplify words. For example, what up, which means what's up, which also means how are you doing? More information about this comes from our language experts, Mr. Holmes and Mr. Bogart. Color. Color. Favor. Favor. Program. Program. Dialogue. Dialogue. Organize. Organize. Pajamas. Pajamas. Check. Check. Skillful. Skillful. Theater. Theater. License. License. Medieval. Medieval. Aging. Aging. Tire. Tire. Every day is a learning day. Man lernt nie aus. That's why we're going to start with more history. The different way of spelling was one way in which the settlers of America wanted to express their independence from the British. There were even talks about changing the language completely. Instead of English, politicians were thinking of choosing Greek or Hebrew to be the language of the United States. As you know, we chose English. Thank you, politicians. And Carolyn has something to say about its grammar, don't you?
Yes, I do. Wir nähern uns mit Riesenschritten endlich den Relativsätzen. Eric und Josh, der Tourguide, waren schön fleißig und haben viele davon verwendet. Aber fangen wir von vorne an. Wozu brauchen wir Relativsätze? Mit Relativsätzen können wir Informationen miteinander verbinden, für die man sonst zwei Sätze bräuchte. Ein Beispiel. Paul Revere is a national hero. He died in Boston. Zwei Sätze, zwei Informationen. Und kein besonders schöner Sprachfluss, denn das sind einfach Informationen, abgehackt, hintereinander gesprochen. Um eine Sache oder eine Person näher zu beschreiben, ohne dafür einen neuen Satz anzufangen, haben wir eben die Relativsätze. Unser Satz sieht als Relativsatz so aus. Paul Revere, who is a national hero, died in Boston. Ein Satz, alle Informationen. Und ein Relativpronomen, who. Das verwenden wir für Personen im Nominativ, also auf die Frage wer oder was. In unserem Beispiel Paul Revere, wer. Und die Erklärung, Paul Revere, der Nationalheld. Who is a national hero? Wie gesagt, who ist das Relativpronomen, also das Verbindungswort für den Nominativ. Es gibt natürlich auch noch die anderen Fälle. Schauen wir mal auf der Übersicht der Relativpronomen. Who, whose, whom. Das sind die Relativpronomen für Personen. Which ist das Relativpronomen für Dinge. Klingt kompliziert? Nein, ist es gar nicht. Personen hat ein O und who, whose und whom haben ebenfalls ein O. Dagegen which schreibt sich mit I, genauso wie things, Dinge. Also so kann ich mir das immer ganz gut merken. Aber einen habe ich noch für Sie. Für Personen und Dinge gibt es das Relativpronomen that. Bevor wir uns damit näher beschäftigen, noch eine Information zum Thema Relativsatz. Es gibt zwei verschiedene Relativsätze, die notwendigen oder bestimmenden Relativsätze, im Englischen Defining Relative Clauses und die Non-Defining Relative Clauses. Das kann man gleichsetzen mit notwendiger und nicht notwendiger Information. Ist es eine Information, die man braucht, um den Inhalt des Satzes zu verstehen? Wenn ja, dann ist es ein notwendiger Relativsatz. Er steht dann nicht in Kommas. An einem Beispiel wird das vielleicht etwas klarer. The girl who is talking to Eric is pretty. Wenn das hübsche Mädchen in einem Raum voll mit hübschen Mädchen ist, dann ist die Information, dass sie gerade mit Eric spricht, notwendig, um sie zu identifizieren. Der Relativsatz bestimmt, um welches der vielen Mädchen es sich handelt. Befinden sich im Raum sowieso nur Eric und das Mädchen, ist die Information nicht notwendig, denn es ist klar, um welches Mädchen es sich handelt. Der Relativsatz würde dann in Kommas stehen. Und nun zum that. Das kann nur in Defining Relative Clauses als Relativpronomen verwendet werden, statt who oder which. Aber nur, wenn es sich dabei um das Objekt oder das Subjekt handelt. Als Objekt entfällt es sogar in der Regel. Man spricht dann von Contact Clauses. Das alles finden Sie aber dann im Begleitbuch. Ich nehme jetzt wieder Contact zu Eric auf. Eric, alles klar, ich wäre mal wieder fix und fertig mit der Grammatik.
Ach, wirklich. That was amazing. I mean, you had a lot of grammar today. I'm really impressed. Thank you very much for explaining that to us, Carolyn. Here, you can have a drink of water. I'm sure your mouth is dry after all that explaining.
Dankeschön.
Well, your day is finished, honey. But you can hang out with me and we can watch the next film.
Ah, gute Idee, gerne.
Yeah, it's about the USA. We travel there with the segment Into the English World. And since history is our main topic, today we'll have a closer look at Boston, which is full of historical buildings.
The United States of America extend over an area of almost 10 million square kilometers. More than 300 million people live here. Boston, the third biggest city on the American East Coast, is known as the cradle of independence. This is where the rebellion against the English mother country began, with the Boston Tea Party. Boston is a city of superlatives. Along the Charles River, it has the longest and highest skyline in the country after New York. Since 1897, Boston has the oldest subway in the States. And, for good measure, it's also known as an El Dorado for recreation. Proof is Boston Common, the oldest public city park in the USA. It used to be a cemetery once. But now back to our colourful history. A huge obelisk, the Bunker Hill Monument, commemorates a battle where the British Redcoats suffered their heaviest losses. The New England Army caused enduring damage to the image of the British forces. Samuel Adams's grave is not far away either. He is known as the instigator of the Boston Tea Party. Protesting against high taxes, disgruntled American colonists stormed English ships from the Old Smith Meeting House and hurled the stocks of laden tea overboard. So began the fight for independence. The story wasn't without its peaceful side, however, and this took place away from Boston Harbour in Cambridge. The latter isn't, as it is often surmised, to be an outskirt of Boston, but a separate borough. This is where one of the oldest, best and most famous universities in the United States is located, Harvard. And yet another superlative, the USS Constitution. Built in 1797, she had 54 cannons and was known as the most modern warship of her time.
What should we do with the drunken sailor? What should we do with the drunken sailor? Okay. Carolyn. Oh, she's gone. So we're almost finished as well. But first, let us sail into the language zone together. You're talking in a different language, hoping everyone understands you. Beyond the language, there is another dimension. A dimension of articulation. A dimension of self-confidence. A dimension of knowledge. You are moving in a land of both listening and comprehension. You are now entering the language zone. Gwyn Bristow's historical fiction is the first of 3 books of a plantation trilogy. Deep Summer begins with a family of 4 heading down from New England in the mid-1700s to start a new life in the Deep South, Louisiana. The reader follows the family and many other families all the way to the early 1900s. It's amazing to read and imagine how these people felt during all the ups and downs the plantation life had to offer them, good and bad. The segment you listened to had much to do with Boston, the colonists, and the importance of one's identity, or should I say, nationality. Eric, our wandering American in Boston, decided to go on a sightseeing tour to discover some of the key plantations in the American Revolution. He started at the City Park, Boston Common, saw Samuel Adams' gravesite, and ended up learning a bit about Paul Revere and where he lived and worked. We learned much about grammar in Eric's amazing tour. The passive. For example, the Boston Common is used as a park by the public. Relative clauses. Paul Revere, who is a national hero, died in Boston. And contact clauses. The book I'm reading at the moment is very interesting. Once again, the U.S. was the topic in Into the English World. We learned more about the history of the United States. Our cowboy went to the rescue and saved a little German Fraulein in Boston who was having problems with the German word Schaf and the English word sharp. Our cowboy is a sharp guy. Once again, our two private detectives, Humphrey Bogart and Sherlock Holmes, differentiated the American and British language. They showed us the difference in spelling. And last but not least, our Bavarian in Boston. Thanks, mister, for making doc and dog a bit more understandable for us. Now that everything is crystal clear, I guess, if not, no problem. You always have the possibility to consult our book or check our website. There, you can go over all the grammar, find more information on our literature, and watch parts of the program again. I hope you enjoyed the show, and please watch us next time. See you soon, good luck, and auf Wiedersehen.